Hey, what's up everyone? Leroy from School of Synthesis, tutor of the beats and DJ class. And today I'm just hanging out in my home studio, having a bit of fun, having a jam, making some tunes. And I just wanted to make a video on step sequencing and kind of like how we use it and why it's such a useful tool. It's pretty much kind of like the fundamental behind many different types of beat making, of all different types of electronic music. And it's a really useful tool because it helps you build patterns and create grooves that you can apply to your track. And it's also a really nice thing to use as well because you don't have to rely so much on loops. No shade on loops, by the way. I love using loops, but it's really great to kind of understand how to program your own beats. So in this video, I'm going to pull out the TR8 and we're going to have a bit of a jam with that, show you how step sequencing works on that, build a groove, and then let's go over to Maschine, which is kind of like the fundamental tool that we use at the beats class at SOS, and we can take a look at how we can build grooves and beats there as well. So without further ado, let's pull up the TR8, let's get stuck in. Alright, so here is the TR8. It's a pretty cool drum machine from Roland. Picked it up secondhand for about $200. Love this thing, use it all the time, has all the fun, Roland drum sample sounds that many people know and love. 808s, 909s, 707s, all that good stuff. But let's kind of use the step seeker in this and see how we can use it to kind of create a groove, because the sequencer is pretty cool and it works very similar to many other kinds of sequencers. Each like button or kind of like thing here becomes a step in our sequence. So I'll show you what that means in 1 second. So let's just take a listen to how it sounds. Cool. So currently 125 BPM is my tempo, and when it's engaged in pattern select means I can use all of these buttons here to trigger different patterns. Pretty cool. You can use all these patterns to be different parts of your track, breakdowns, intros, outros, peak joints, all that kind of good stuff. So it's really useful. But when we go to pattern select, that's where we're actually able to see where each individual step occurs. So here I've got the kick drum selected, and you select it by pressing this. And here I can see that I've got a step activated on steps 1, 5, 9, and 13. So essentially all of these buttons, these 16 buttons, become sort of a step within my sequence, right? So 16 steps giving me kind of like a 1-bar sequence, which is really nice. And the cool thing about the step sequencer is you can just take sounds in and out and place them where you like to kind of come up with the pattern that you're after. So let's start from fresh. So I got a blank pattern here on step 1. Press play, there's nothing there, all right? Go to step record, press this button here, which selects my kick. And you can actually see the TR8 actually highlights the downbeats in this sequence. So, presumably we're in a 4/4 time signature. So steps 1, 5, 9, and 13 will give me that 4 to the floor, downbeat groove of a kick drum. If you want to change it up a little bit, you can take some steps out simply by pressing it and just entering it in. Now before I go forward, I'm just going to reset the shuffle. I'll talk about that in a little sec. Cool, might take that one off. Let's move to the clap. Okay, so where do I want the clap to be? I want the clap to be kind of like in the upbeat of the sequence, so 5 and the 13. That's not the clap, that's the close hat. My bad. Let's go to the clap. Hand clap. HC for hand clap. All right. FYI, these little sliders here, they're basically volumes for individual sounds. But we're more focused on the sequencer side of things for now, so I won't go too deep into the actual operation of the TR8. Nonetheless, here we go. So 5, 13. Yeah. All right. And if you want to give it a bit more. Cool. All right. Let's just press stop there. Now let's go to open hat. Now I'm creating a housey groove here, so I kind of like the open hat to be kind of like between the kick and the snare, like on the half step. So we're going to go 3, 7, 11, and 15. All right, we're kind of moving along now. Nice. So you can see what's going on here is I'm literally just going sound by sound, putting it into the step sequencer to build the groove. Starting with the kick, going to the clap, moving on to the open hat. Now you can kind of like, use any sound you like and go in any order you like. And you can use any tempo you like and any arrangement you like using this method. Now let's give this groove a little bit more something. Let's go to the close hats. Undeniably the most underrated percussive sound in dance music. Really makes that sound, that groove, really sing. So I'm going to put them here. I'm not going to put it there because that's where the open hat is. So I'm going to put another one here on the other side of the open hat. And then let's kind of go... Well, the cool thing about the step sequencer is you can kind of just experiment, You're not really limited to anything. Let's just see how that sounds. Sounds pretty good to me. You have the freedom to be able to literally just put sounds in and out where you like to create the groove that you like. The thing I love about step sequencers is that you just put sounds wherever they're meant to go, wherever you feel they should go to create the groove that you like, without having to worry about quantizing or timing issues. Now, let's speak about quantizing and timing. We don't really need to quantize this. However, it is a little bit stiff. So the TR8 has this cool little thing here. You might not be able to see it very well, but it says shuffle, which basically means swing. And what swing is more or less just kind of moving the sound slightly off the grid so it's not super rigid and tight. We're essentially telling a robot to, create a drum pattern here for us. And the robot doesn't really know anything that's kind of human like swing and shuffle. So we need to tell it to do so. It's kind of limited on the TR8. You can only really turn it up or turn it down. But that's kind of one of the cool things with the limitations of these sorts of things is just being able to just experiment. I usually like to punch it into about there, which is sort of like the 2 o'clock position. I think I accidentally turned the tempo up. Okay, let's go back there. So here's with no swing. And let's turn it up by about 25%. Yeah, you can really tell. It's starting to give you a bit of shuffle and a bit of swing there now. Okay. Now, what about velocity? And what is velocity? Well, velocity is more or less just individual volume levels for individual steps within the sound. So say I wanted to turn this sound here down a little bit. I can't just turn this down because it will turn the sounds down for everything. But if I press and hold this and then tap that step, see how it makes it go purple? That indicates to me that it's reduced the volume of that step by 50%. Cool, so if I wanted to put another one there, but reduce it, it kind of adds a little bit of extra dynamics and nuance to the groove. It really helps it kind of like shuffle along. Let's go to the snares. SD for snare drum. Let's punch in a few here. And let's change the velocities of a few. Turn the volume up. And you can turn that back down again. It's kind of like a bit of a performative feature. One of the things that people really liked with the TR8 was these little volume sliders. Bring sounds in and out. What about some rides? Hit the ride, RC for ride. We'll turn the sound up a bit. Let's layer the rides with, well, let's just see what it sounds like. We'll put them on every single step. All right, it's pretty intense, but let's reduce the volume of every second one. Oop, 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 here we go. And then bring the volume down a little bit of it. So it just kind of sits in the background there. And if that's not to your taste, then experiment with the sequencer more. Let's remove some steps entirely, see what that sounds like. It's entirely up to you. So the takeaway from this really is that these buttons down here enable you to create and build the pattern based on the kind of sound that you're after. All right, so it's a really useful tool, and let's take a look at how we can use it on something like Maschine. Okay, so here, this is Maschine. I love Maschine. It's one of my favorite things in the world. It's such a great thing for using to create beats and melodies and everything, really. Hence why it makes such a big feature in the beats class at the School of Synthesis. And it's a really great place to kind of teach a lot of the core concepts of beat making, all right? And in this video, we're going to look at step sequencing, similar to how we just did with the TR8. So first of all, let's just take a listen to the thing I've kind of cooked up here. Pretty cool little deep house kind of groove, very simple. I was just mucking around with the mute button there to turn some sounds on and off to experiment. But yeah, very simple. I'm actually using a really awesome sample pack from this thing called Motor Impact. Has all these really dope kind of like Detroit sort of, underground house kind of sounds made by Native Instruments. Cool. All right. So first thing, we're going to create a beat. We're going to create a new pattern. All right, a fresh one, and it's going to be 1 bar long. All right, you can see that there. It's just 1 bar long. We want to keep it nice and short to start with. We can always duplicate the length later or extend it later, but let's just keep it short for now. All right, so when I hit play, you hear nothing because there is nothing in the sequence yet. But if I hit the step button, which is where we're going to be working, if I press play, you'll see that sort of playhead just cycles throughout that 1 bar sequence. All right, it's 1 bar because there's each step or each pad is a step in the sequence, and we've got 16 pads, meaning 16 steps, meaning there's a 1 bar loop, and it's just going to loop over and over and over until we enter in some steps of sounds. The first thing you need to do is we need to select the sound that we want to sequence. So let's go pad. Select kick. It's a pretty good place to start. Really establish the groove. Hit step. I'm going to put it on the 5, the 9, the 1, 5, 9, and the 13. All right, 1, 5, 9, and 13. So that is kind of the downbeat of this, 1 bar groove, and we'll give us that 4 to the floor drum arrangement. Now, it's always cool with the step sequence because you can just take sounds out and kind of rearrange them and put them in different parts of the sequence to kind of create, different sort of grooves and different sort of shuffles depending on the genre of music that you're after, right? Right. And, I really like experimenting this way. You kind of just like place things, randomly within the sequence to come up with different patterns that you might not necessarily have had in your head to start with. All right, so let's just keep it straight and 4. Nice. Now let's go to another sound to layer some sounds on top of this to build the pattern, build the groove. So pad mode, select the sound. All right, so cool. There is the clap. We're gonna put this on the 5 and the 13. That's the upbeat of the sequence, okay? So if you find sounds are a little bit loud, you can go to the mixer and turn the volume down with the knobs here. Nice. Okay. Let's find another sound. Open hat. Great. So we want the open hat to go between the kick, which is on the 1, and the 5, which is where the clap will be. So we want it to be on the 3. So the 3, 7, 11, and 15. That is the kind of like the half step. Cool. So as you can see, the sequencer dedicates itself to every sound independently, allowing you to sequence it independently to create your groove. So I've sequenced my kick, my clap, and my open hat. All right. Let's sequence something else. How about this little sort of like sort of closed hi-hat sound? Let's go here. And now let's put it on every single step. All right, nice. Adding to that groove, pushing it along a bit more. But, you know, it's sounding a little bit stiff, and that's because we haven't really engaged with our velocity values yet. What's velocity? Again, it's just independent volumes for each steps, you know, or each steps independent, each steps volume independently. It can be a bit of a mouthful, but essentially, rather than turning the whole thing down, I can turn down the each steps volume here, and that's what these little lines represent up the top. Each one has its own velocity value. Now you got to make sure this is off first. This says fixed vel, meaning fixed velocity, meaning it will fix the velocity to a value that you choose. In this case, it's 100. Let's not get too bogged down in that. Let's turn it off. And I can use these arrows here to cycle between different sounds, and I can change the velocity to however I like. And I'm just going to kind of change sort of every sort of second one. Might sound or look a little bit tedious to kind of like, you know, manually change these. There is a way to randomize this. I'm not going to go into that today. But still, it's kind of all part of the fun and all part of the process of electronic music making, is really engaging with this kind of hardware to, you know, create a groove and a pattern that you like, you know, and really use tools to create your beats and patterns. All right, so let's have a look at that, how it sounds. Right, nice. So let's just go here and we'll solo that sound. Right, as you can see, there's a lot more nuance into that sequence now because they're all being triggered at different velocity levels. Really, really important tool and technique for you to use within your beat making journey. All right, cool. Let's add in some other sounds. I'll just unsolo that. Press and hold solo button. Tap the sound you want to solo. Cool. All right, let's just add this sound in. So this is kind of like another little shaker sort of sound. Let's put it there and there. You know, let's just be really random. Let's not be too precise. Let's not spend too much time on this. Let's just go blip and see how that sounds. Now, I should point out that because I had fixed velocity off, and as I entered those sounds in, it actually puts the steps in relative to how hard you enter the step. So to explain that better, however, how hard I press this will determine the value of the velocity. So if I press it really soft, you can see it's quite soft. If I hit it really hard, it comes all the way in. So it means that the step sequence is really dynamic and is quite intuitive in which it responds to you as a human. So let's just take those out and try again. All right, cool. So you can see I've got some really loud and some really soft. So this one here is really loud. So let's just pull that down, all right? So you can hear that's really subtle. Maybe let's just go and find a few more using these arrows, and we'll just like pull that up a little bit. Here we go. Maybe down a little bit. Keeping it about 65 is sort of the sweet spot. Let's get this one and bring it up. So the nuance of those, you know, random velocity levels really adds to the overall groove. We've got a consistent kick drum that drives the rhythm with the clap and the open hats, but the little percussive elements like this and this sort of dancing around between the steps at different velocity levels really helps to create an interesting groove. So that's velocity. What about swing? Well, swing is a very important feature when it comes to beat making, and on the TR8 you will probably remember that's just got the shuffle dial. You can just sort of turn up or down, and that's kind of as far as it goes. That's like the limitations on the shuffle. Sounds really good, but you don't have as much control. Swing is so important on Maschine that it actually has its own dedicated button, right? So if I press this button and I turn it up, you'll see here it says master swing, which means it's applying a percentage value to the whole groove, all right? So at the moment I've got 25% swing. So let's turn it down and I'll audition it without swing. So here's no swing. All right, now I'll turn it up to 25%. It's kind of the golden number in my opinion. All right, nice. You can hear and feel it just has a bit more kind of like, you know, swing to it. Let's put it up a little bit more, say 35. Nice. Now it really kind of gallops now. You can hear it really, it's quite, you know, swung and swingy and very groovy, you know. Cool. Now, what if I wanted to control the sound's swing independently of the whole pattern? So meaning that I could swing this sound different to that sound or independent of that sound. So this has its own swing setting. Well, I can do that. I'll just bring the master swing down to about 20. And say I want to swing this sound to its, say, 30, all right? Press this, hold the sound you want to swing and turn the value. So say now it's going to be 30%. So this sound here will be swung at 30, whereas everything else will be swung at 20. Same with this one. Let's hold this one down and swing that to like, I don't know, let's just be drastic here. Go all out, 35. Just kind of means the kick's pretty consistent, but everything else kind of dances around it. It's just something to know and something for you to use at your own taste. You know, still a really cool feature that you should experiment with. So let's just add some more sounds. The second kick drum, let's put that there. I will bring the velocity down a bit. Cool. And then, you know, from here, you would start to build, you know, these patterns relative to the genre. And if I press pattern mode, you can see I've already got 3 other patterns, and each pattern is a different sort of segment of my track. You know, so you think of patterns like that's your intro, that's your breakdown, that's your sort of like the drop. This is, you know, the outro, etc., etc. And you arrange these patterns to create an overall, you know, arrangement of your track. Probably needs an entirely new dedicated video, which I'll get to at some stage. But I really just wanted to focus in this video on step sequencing, swing, and velocity, and how to use it to create beats really quickly and really get going quite fast and experiment with new ideas that you might not necessarily thought of. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in to today's video. I'm Leroy from the School of Synthesis, tutor of the Beats and DJ class. I hope you found this helpful, and we'll catch you next time.